Welcome to our class on the Silhouette Mint Custom Stamp Maker. I'm Kelly Wayment, and in this class you'll learn how to use this powerful stamp creation tool with its easy-to-use software, Mint Studio. We'll design and mint a variety of stamps so you can take those ideas and start creating your own custom stamps for personal projects, business, or gifts. The Mint machine uses a thermal printing process to create detailed images on Mint stamp sheets. When you apply ink, it soaks into the printed portion of the stamp sheet, and then your stamp can be used as many as 50 times before you need to reapply any ink. You can even use multiple ink colors on a single stamp. Let's talk about the tools and supplies you'll need to work with the Silhouette Mint. You only need a few things to make and use your own stamps: the Mint Stamp Maker, stamp kits and stamp sheet sets, mint ink, paper for blotting the excess ink, and you might find toothpicks helpful to spread the ink. You'll need surfaces to stamp on, such as tags, sticker paper, or envelopes, and you'll need the Mint Studio software. Now that you know what the Mint is and the supplies you need to use it, let's talk about the Mint Studio software. Mint Studio is the software you use to design your custom stamps and then send the designs to your Mint machine. You can download Mint Studio for free from silhouetteamerica.com in the software section. Mint Studio can use imported images, photos, designs from the Silhouette Design Store, drawing tools and frames, fonts on your computer, and any combination of those to create the perfect stamp. It's easy to adjust your designs and apply filter effects to customize the look of your stamp images. We'll go over how to use different features of Mint Studio as we create several stamps. There are 4 basic steps for creating a Mint stamp: design it, mint it, ink it, and stamp it. For our first stamp, I'll use a design from the Mint Studio library that I've purchased from the Silhouette Design Store. I have a clean design area on my page, but if you need to open a new document, you can do so by clicking New Drawing in the upper left. Your library is over here on the left, where you can find all the designs that come preloaded with your Mint machine, along with any designs you purchase from the Silhouette Design Store. You can get to the Design Store with the icon just below the library and purchase any designs you like. I'll enter the library and search for Made with Love. Double-click to open it. Now we need to choose a stamp size. Open the Stamp Settings window, which looks like a stamp sheet. I'll go with 30 by 30, which is one of the sizes that comes with the machine. The stamp sizes are in millimeters. A quick way to resize the design to fit the stamp is to choose Fit to Stamp at the bottom of the screen. That's one you use all the time. Make sure the image is selected before choosing Fit to Stamp. The next step is to choose a filter. Click the Painter's Palette icon in the upper right corner of the design area. These 3 icons are used with every stamp: Design View, Filters, and Send to Mint. We'll go over the filter choices in more detail with other stamps, but for this simple stamp, I'm sticking with the standard filter. If the design you choose doesn't show up with the standard filter, you may need to tweak the brightness slider until it does. Mine looks okay, so I'm ready to save it before sending it to the Mint. Use the Save icon or file Save As, then give it a name before saving it to your hard drive in case you want to print it again or make any changes later. Now go to the Mint leaf icon and plug in and turn on your Mint machine. Notice the image has automatically mirrored itself, so it will print correctly. The steps are right there for you to follow. Check your filters, which we just did. Then click the on-screen Start Mint button. The Mint's light will start to flash, and then the final step tells you to insert the stamp sheet into the Mint. It tells you which size to use, which is based on the size you chose when designing your stamp. I've clicked Start Mint in the software, and the light on the Mint is flashing, so it's ready for the stamp sheet. Insert the stamp sheet with the black stamp material facing up. Leave the thin plastic layer intact. The pointed end with the arrow goes into the back side of your Mint as shown in the software. The machine will grab it and pull it through so you can let go as soon as the mint takes hold of it. It's pretty fast and it automatically feeds the sheet through as it prints. The finished stamp will come out the front and you can pick it up as soon as the blue light stops flashing. Now we're ready to assemble the stamp. Make sure you choose the correct stamp base, and this one I've got the 30 by 30 square. And we're going to open up the lid and we're going to remove this backing up on top here to expose the adhesive. Now we're going to take the printed stamp piece and we'll just fold it on the perforation. We're going to open it up and separate the stamp itself, and all this can get thrown away. So now that's got adhesive exposed, and so we're just going to place it down on there on that sticky part. And I like to actually press it down on paper instead of pressing it with my fingers so I don't get any finger oils on it. So we're ready to apply the ink. I'm going to use magenta for this stamp, and you should use mint ink because it is specially formulated for the right amount of absorption and to be able to be re-inked over time. So we're going to squeeze it out over the entire surface. We're going to just make sure that it covers all of that design. And that starts to absorb almost immediately. So you want to make sure that you don't get the ink too thin. Mine looks a little bit thin, so I'm going to add just a little bit more. It's only going to absorb in the printed area. That black part resists the ink. And then we'll wait about 5 minutes for that to absorb into the design. And it's not all going to soak in, but most of it will. After waiting for the ink to absorb, now we're going to stamp this onto a clean piece of paper to get rid of the excess ink. So the black solid material has resisted the ink and the printed portion has had it soak in. There's always going to be a little bit of extra ink that you need to get off, and you do that by stamping it. So we'll just stamp it maybe 10 times until you get the image showing clearly. You don't want any ghosting around the edges. Okay, and now once it's stamping cleanly, we're going to stamp it onto the little label. And that way we can put that label on the lid so we know what our stamp is. You can stamp up to 50 times and sometimes more with this same stamp. When it starts to look dry, just add the same ink, wait about 5 minutes for it to be absorbed, and blot it on clean paper again. You can re-ink your stamp as many times as you want. One last thing before we move on to a new stamp project. You can use this same wooden stamp base for as many of the same size stamps as you want. If you already have this 30 by 30 millimeter base, you can buy refills as stamp sheet sets instead of buying the base in a stamp kit each time. A stamp sheet set comes with 2 stamps of the same size that you can create and use on an existing base. If you need a new base with a single corresponding stamp, you would purchase a stamp kit instead. Now you know how to design a simple stamp, mint it, ink it, and stamp it. In the next lesson, you'll learn more design features in Mint Studio, like adding your own text. In our last lesson, we opened a design and minted it with no modifications, but Mint Studio provides a lot of ways to customize your stamps. This time, we'll work with several different design elements, including text, to make our stamp more personal. Open a new document, choose Stamp Settings, and pick a stamp size. I'm going to make this one 45 by 45. This time I want to use a frame, a library design, and some text. I'll start with a rounded rectangle over here with the frames. Hold your Shift key while dragging to get a perfect square. I want this about 1.65 inches square. I'll align everything later. I also want to turn this into a dotted line, So with my frame selected, I'll go to the Line Style window and choose these tiny dashes. To add text, choose the text icon on the left and click down on the design page to create a cursor. I'll type Mrs. Jones Says and get my text tool again and type Good Job. The text style window is automatically opened, and I can also choose it from the icons at the top. I'll select all the text and choose a font from my list. I want Colette Jot Thick. I think the bottom text needs to be bigger, so I'll select just that part and set it to 48 point. In my library, I'll choose an apple I bought from the design store. It comes in a little big and in front of the other objects on my page. I can place it below the text with a right click and choosing Send to Back. Drag a corner handle to shrink it down to about 0.85 inches. Now it's time to rearrange all these elements so they look balanced and centered. Drag the text toward the top and bottom borders, and then we can use align tools for the rest. You can find your alignment options by going to Object, Align, and choose any of these options for your selected shape or shapes. I like a visual representation, so I'll choose the bottom option that will open all my align tools in a panel on the side. Choose the dotted border and then choose Center to Stamp. That centers it without resizing. Now select all the pieces together and choose Align Center to line them up with the outer border. I think that's starting to look pretty good. Mint Studio has a fun curved text feature, so I'm going to select the top line and open the Curved Text window. I want the rounded upper curve near the bottom right, so I'll just click that option and watch my text curve perfectly. There are a lot of curved text options, so just play around to see what you like. My text is just a little large, so I'll hold my Alt key or Option on a Mac while dragging a corner handle inward, and that resizes it proportionately while still holding its position on the stamp. Now I'll nudge things up and down with my arrow keys to finalize their positions. If you want to, you can change the colors of the objects on your design to experiment with what ink color you might want to use. I'm going to give this as a gift, so I only want it to be one color. That way I can include the ink with the stamp for re-inking. I'll select everything and change it to red. Notice the apple color didn't change. That's because designs you purchase from the design store currently open as raster images in Mint Studio. That means it's an image or a picture instead of a vector. Vectors are different in that they can be infinitely scaled without losing resolution, and can also be ungrouped, recolored, welded, and otherwise manipulated. Vectors include text, drawing tools, the original 50 Mint designs, and any Silhouette Studio cut files you open in Mint Studio. Raster images include design store purchases in Mint Studio, like this apple, and any photos or images you bring in, like photographs or clip art. Raster images can't be ungrouped in Mint Studio, but you can still apply filters. You can use crop tools to break apart raster files, and we'll cover those in the last lesson. You won't see colors change on a raster image unless you're in the filter preview. Raster images keep their original colors in the design view. Colors on screen don't really matter anyway because you're going to physically apply the ink color yourself. I just want you to understand why some parts of your design may behave differently than others. So let's go to the stamp filters. Now the apple has turned red with the rest of the design. If you ever have light colors that disappear when you come to the filters preview, you just need to adjust the filters, like decreasing brightness or increasing contrast. Take a look at this yellow banner I'm opening from my library. It disappears on the filter page. But if I select it and decrease the brightness, it appears. I'll delete that now. You need to select an object before changing filter settings for it. I'll select the apple. Solid images can look fun with these lower filters applied, like stripes. All filters can be adjusted, and we'll cover that in another lesson. I like this apple better with the standard filter. Everything else on this design looks good, so I'll leave it alone. Now I can send the stamp to the Mint. Again, follow the instructions to check the filters, click Start Mint, then feed the correct stamp sheet size into the back of the Mint. So let's get our stamp block ready for this again. Peel off the adhesive. Tear along the perforation to access your stamp. And stick it onto the adhesive again. And we'll use our red ink for this. And again, you just apply it to the design itself. You don't need to try and get it on all of the black area. And we'll just wait for that to soak in for about 5 minutes again before we stamp it clean on the paper. Now we'll stamp it on the paper to get it clean. I found that about 10 times usually does it, but it just depends on the type of stamp you've made, the size, and how much ink is on there. Okay, so I'll stamp my label. I'll put that on the lid. And now it's ready for this teacher stamp to stamp some homework. So I want to give this as a gift. I'll put it in a cute little bag and I'll add the ink so you can give it to the teacher and she can re-ink it herself and use it for a long time. Now you know some of the tools you can use to customize your stamps, like text and filters. In the next lesson, we'll talk about using multiple colors of ink on a stamp and how to bring in external images like a brand logo. As you've seen already, the Mint machine is perfect for making personalized stamps. So why not use it for business with your brand name or logo? In this lesson, I'll show you how to bring in an external image to add to your stamp. We'll start with a new document and choose a stamp size. This one will be 60 by 30. I want to add a logo so I can use this with my brand for business. Use the Open command and navigate to where you have the image saved. Mint Studio will open a variety of image file types, including JPEG and PNG. Select it and choose Fit to Stamp to make it a more manageable size. Now you can further resize it with corner handles or scale options. I want it to be about 0.80 inches, and I'll move it over to the side. I'll add a library design called Thank You Script. If the white background of these image files cover other parts of the design, remember you can right-click and bring to front, send to back, or bring forward or backward. I'll resize this thank you to about 1.5 inches wide. I'll add text with my text tool and adjust the font and size with the text style options. I want this at 24 point and the ZPP green font. And I'll nudge the lines of text closer together. I'll open all my Align options again with Object, Align, Align options. Center the text and group it with a right-click menu choice. Vertical alignment doesn't work to align the logo because of the extra white space, so I'll just eyeball it for visual balance. I'm not worried about the colors because I'll add the ink myself, but I don't want anything too close together that's going to be different colors. There's even enough room for a web address, but I'll skip that on this one. Check the filters. I want to thicken up the thank you, so I'll ungroup it and decrease the brightness on just that part. Remember to select the individual pieces to add different filters to different parts of the design. Send to Mint and follow the instructions again. On this stamp, we're going to add 2 ink colors. So again, just expose the adhesive on the block and open up our little printed stamp. And apply it to the adhesive. So when you're using multiple ink colors, it's a good idea not to let them touch each other. If the ink colors touch, especially while they're wet and sitting on top of the stamp, they will start to blend together and you don't have a lot of control over that blending. So I've designed this so my design is in separate parts that aren't really close to each other. That way I can keep the ink colors from touching. So I'm putting black on here. Remember to use enough ink, but try not to overdo it, because anything that doesn't soak in is just wasted ink. And now the green. Now I'm actually going to use a toothpick to kind of spread this a little bit so I don't have to use too much ink. And I have a lot of control with the tip of a toothpick so I don't get the ink colors to bump into each other. Okay, so I'll just let that soak in for 5 more minutes. So now I'm ready to clean it by stamping it multiple times on my paper. Okay, I think I'm ready for my label. With a stamp like this, it's nice to add it to stickers that you can put in your product orders, or even stick it on a little, stamp it on a little card and stick it in a cute envelope. So you can see how easy it is to add a logo and create stamps that are great for business. And now you know how to add multiple ink colors in a design. We'll cover multiple ink colors more in the next lesson. In this project, let's make a really large stamp. The largest stamp size you can make with the Silhouette Mint is 45 by 90 millimeters. That's about 1.8 inches by 3.5 inches. We'll talk about some drawing tools, importing library designs as vectors, and line properties. We'll start with a new document and a stamp size of 90 by 45. We'll make another horizontal stamp, but if you ever want to make a vertical stamp, it's easy to change the orientation in the Stamp Settings panel. Earlier, we talked about opening purchased library designs, which open as raster images. You can't ungroup and do much to manipulate raster images, but there's a way to get those same designs as vectors by using Silhouette Studio. Silhouette Studio version 4 and higher is a free program, and once you connect your Silhouette account, all of your design purchases automatically load into the Silhouette Studio library because of the cloud. Library designs in Silhouette Studio open as vectors, which, if you remember, means they can be infinitely scaled without losing resolution, and they can be ungrouped and manipulated in many ways that raster images can't. I've opened the same Happy Birthday design in Silhouette Studio, so now I'll just save it as a studio file. I'll go back into Mint Studio, click the Open icon, and find the studio file I saved. Mint Studio will open Silhouette Studio files, and they open as vectors if they were vectors in Silhouette Studio. Choose Fit to Stamp. Then resize it a little smaller with your Alt or Option key while dragging a corner handle. Let's use the frame drawing tools to draw a frame with fancy edges. All the frames have adjustment options. Watch for sliders in the middle and red or white adjustment dots. I like this frame in its original form for this design. You could add additional shapes which are adjustable as well. Be sure to take some time to play with the various frames and shape drawing tools. Let's get this frame adjusted so it looks even on all sides. About 3.4 inches wide and 1.62 inches high is where I want it. Use Object, Align, Center to Stamp to center it without further resizing. Now let's adjust the Happy Birthday design. Because it's a vector, we can ungroup it and adjust the spacing between the words. Let's bump up the thickness of the letters too. Open the Line Style window, select all the words, and adjust it to 1.5 point thickness. If we go back to the original raster image we opened from the Mint Studio library, you can see we can't ungroup it and we can't change the line thickness. Another perk to using a vector is you can change the colors in the design view. I want Birthday and the frame to be teal, Happy to be blue, and To You to be green. In the end, it's all up to the actual ink colors I apply, but I like to see what it looks like on screen to help me choose my colors. This would be a great all-purpose birthday stamp, ready to stamp at a moment's notice for any gift tag or card. But just because we can, let's alter the design and personalize it. Select it all and choose Ctrl or Command-C to copy. Open a new document of the same size and press Ctrl or Command-V to paste. Object, Align, Center to Stamp gets us back into position. Shrink the text to about 2.5 inches wide. Delete the bottom line that says To You. Deleting portions of a design is easier with vectors. Choose the Text tool and type out a name. I'll change the font to I Love Glitter. I'll reposition these off to the left and align them with each other. And I'll grab my text tool again, type the letter B, and change it to the LW Birthday 2 Dingbat font. I like using characters from Dingbat fonts for my mint stamps. Resize it a little larger. To thicken up fonts, click the lower left circle to add a thick outline. Then open the Line Style window and adjust the thickness. I'm going with 1.0 point. Finally, we can make this stamp bright and cheerful with a bunch of different colors. Happy is blue, Birthday to green, James to orange, the cake to red, and the outline to yellow. When it looks good, we'll check the filters and send it to the mint. So we're ready to put this on the stamp. Take off the adhesive liner. Get our stamp out. Okay, so we're going to add a lot of colors to this one. And just remember that you are trying to keep those colors from touching. And skinnier lines need less ink. Big open spaces will need more ink. And you'll just kind of get a feel for that as you do more of them over time. So I'm going to add green, blue, orange, red, and yellow to this one. And sometimes on skinny lines and when I'm close to other colors, I like to use a toothpick to kind of make sure that I don't have to use too much ink or that the ink colors don't touch. And we'll finish with yellow. So we'll get this one all cleaned, stamping it off. Okay, so this one has a lot of colors. That makes it really fun to add it to a gift tag or just to put on the front of a decorated gift bag. And then remember, you can switch these out. So if you've got multiple stamps of the same size, you can use the same block. This time I'll just stamp a gift tag. This one would be a good generic birthday stamp. And that way we could just attach it to the bag for a fun birthday gift tag. So now you know some advantages of importing and using your library designs as vectors and how to access more frames and shapes in Mint Studio. In the final lesson, we'll discuss using photographs and crop tools. In our final lesson, I'll show you how to make a mint stamp with a photograph. Choose a stamp size of 45 by 45. Open the folder where you've saved a photo you want to use, select it, and open it. If your photo comes in really large, just select it and choose Fit to Stamp at the bottom of the page. Then you can resize further from there. The next step is to choose a filter, so go to the Filter window like we have with our previous stamps in earlier lessons. Any part of a design within the stamp area will show the filter. If you move the photo off the stamp area, the filter won't show. Make sure you select the photo before changing any filters, because each object on the page can have its own filter applied. We can adjust this standard filter, but I like to use realistic, most often for people or faces. All of the filters have sliders to adjust, and I like this photo around 40% on realistic. You can play around with the filters and sliders for each filter to customize your photo. Just keep in mind that not every photo will translate well to a stamp. You can ignore any part of your photo that's outside of the stamp area. When you go to the design view again, the filter looks like it's disappeared, but the filter will still be there in the filter preview and in the send preview. This stamp is ready to mint, but I want to show you your crop tools with a different picture. I've got a square of digital pattern paper here that I've already imported and resized. I'm still working with a 45 by 45 millimeter stamp size. Let's go to the crop tools at the top, and you can see there are several crop templates, some knife tools, and magnet trace. You can even choose a frame or shape drawing tool on the left to draw out a different crop shape, but I'll use a heart preset crop template. I always uncheck Auto Apply for crop tools because then I can position and resize the shape before applying the crop. Choose the heart and drag it across the pattern image. You can reposition or resize the heart or the paper until you have it where you want it. When you're ready to crop, make sure the heart is selected and choose Apply Selected Shape as Crop Template. Now I've got a perfect heart cut out, which I'll drag over and fit to my stamp. Move to Filters, and this time I'll go with Comic Fill, which is another favorite for photos. I'll set Contrast to about 84% and Pattern to about 98%. Remember, this will be different with every photo you try. You can still add other design elements like text or other shapes if you want. Now I can send both of these stamps to my mint. So let's put these together. I'm going to put the girls together first. And you don't actually have to have it attached to the block while you are doing this, but sometimes it's easier just because the back side is rough on this other one. I'll get these both ready and then apply the ink at the same time. Okay, so for the girls, I'm going to go with black so they can add it to colored paper or whatever they want. They can get creative with where they stamp their little personalized photo stamp. I'm going to use a toothpick to spread this out a little bit, make sure I've reached all the spots. And I'll let that sit while I apply 3 colors to this floral heart. Now I've talked about not mixing ink colors before, but this time we are going to make the colors kind of blend into each other. It gives a fun effect on a pattern like this. I'll use Orchid and pink in the middle, and then lavender on the bottom. I'm picking colors that will look nice together when they touch and blend a little bit. And I'll just help that along a little bit with the toothpick. Let them kind of blend and spread. Okay, so now we can let both of those sit and absorb until we're ready to clean them. So this photo stamp with the girls is ready to clean off. This one's fun with photo stamps to watch their faces appear as you stamp it. Okay, I think that's ready. Make the label. I think these girls will really love having a stamp that they can just stamp wherever they want, send notes to each other or for their friends. It's a fun way to use a photo stamp. Okay, that's looking pretty good. So we'll make the label for that. And mint stamps are really fun. I mean, this heart will go anywhere really, but it'd be fun to use it in a planner. If you like to decorate your planners, especially the little tiny stamps, but really all the different sizes are great for planners. So you can see how easy it is to use photos and other images to turn into custom stamps with your mint machine. You can get clever with cropping or just choose a filter and go. We've covered a lot of ways you can create your own custom mint stamps in Mint Studio. It can be as simple as opening a sign, fitting it to your stamp, and sending it to the mint machine. But now you also know a lot of clever tricks in Mint Studio, like using shapes, frames, cropping, and text tools. I hope you try out some photos for your stamps too. If you want to learn more about all of the features you can use in Mint Studio to customize your designs, please check out the Mint Studio playlist on our YouTube channel. You'll also find lots of mint inspiration on Silhouette101.com. And as always, if you need extra help, you can reach out to Silhouette Support at SilhouetteAmerica.com. Thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoy making your custom Silhouette mint stamps with your newfound skills.